Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
And I'm Holly Fry.
I feel like we just start saying hello and happy Friday. I don't remember how we kick off these episodes now anymore, even though we've been recording them for a million years.
Sometimes, one's brain dips a little.
It's like how when we're doing the thing at the end of the episode about where to find us, sometimes I will just go, what is our email address? I don't even know. So this week we had this accidental two-parter on Irving Berlin, who I had kind of thought about as like sort of a low-key Christmassy episode for December because of the song White Christmas and the movie White Christmas. And then it blossomed into two parts that could no longer happen before Christmas, happened after Christmas, but not really about Christmas much at all. And I do, though, want to talk about the movie White Christmas, because as we said in the episode, it's a movie that has aged beautifully and terribly at the same time. Like there are so many performances in it that are delightful and songs that are delightful. And also the whole movie is really about a man who feels old and sad and useless, and everyone stops what they are doing to try to make him feel better.
Right.
There's some age differences in the couples that people find a little jarring today. And then there's also that song that sort of celebrates how much they love minstrel shows. I really don't know how much influence Irving Berlin had over the plot of the movie. I did not go look into that, but realizing how soon that was to like his career winding down and how he felt about it, I now kind of see it in light of that, of like how much of this character was like sort of a reflection of Irving Berlin, wondering how many years as an entertainer and a songwriter he had left.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I had not known before this the context of Christmas being a difficult time for him. But I have always been the person who was like, the song White Christmas is not a happy song.
Yeah, like there are arrangements of it that are really peppy, but like it can sound wistful and nostalgic and just sad, like heartbreaking.
It's always sounded sad to me since I was a kid. I always conjured this image of somebody like trapped somewhere where they couldn't get to anyone they wanted to see. And so now I'm like, oh, maybe that's actually kind of how the song is. It's not just your weird little gothic child read of it.
Yeah.
I had a very funny moment when we were talking in the first part of this one about wax cylinders.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of a performer having to perform it over and over as they recorded one-offs. And how much, like today, and for a long time, right, since mass production has been a thing, like part of what people know in learning of songs are like the unique breaths and phrases of a given performer, like when they sing it or whatever, and how that's one of the things you notice when you go to a live show, that they do it slightly differently. And imagine if everybody had a different sound memory in their head of what it was supposed to sound like. And it's just a fascinating thing to me that there would never be one definitive version of any given song. So any changes within performances would have completely shifted it.
Yeah.
The internet would lose its mind if that were the case. It'd be like, well, mine, he breathes before the. Like, I just can't. It's so fascinating.
Yeah. I didn't realize until working on this, like what sheet music, like I took piano lessons as a kid. I had sheet music for things, but like to me, the sheet music for whatever was the thing purchased to learn to play the song for my piano recital or whatever. The idea that like there would be effort put into like a very nicely illustrated cover that was also like a marketing effort for other sheet music. And that in addition to people buying the sheet music so they could learn to play the thing on the piano, that they would sort of be collecting sheet music as these attractive things to have in their home. Like that was not really a thing that had ever entered into my mind until working all on this.
I kind of had a sense of that because I remember when I was younger, when I was in my teens and early 20s, I did more of this than I have in later years. But I used to often go to flea markets and just like, and there were instances where I would see sheet musics grouped together in collections. And like, I remember talking to a couple of vendors who specifically did have a lot of sheet music. Remember, this is late 80s, early 90s. Where they were talking about how, some people like to collect, all of the pieces from this publisher from this year to this year. And so I had a little bit more of a sense of it, but I didn't think about it being marketed for people to collect, if you know what I mean. Like people often collect things that are not intended to be collector's items.
Sure.
But these kind of were actually designed that way from the top.
Yeah. One of the things I knew I wanted to include in these episodes from the beginning was the was Woody Guthrie's response to God Bless America. Like, as I was taking my very first notes, before I had even gone and gotten any research about this particular aspect of it, I just had written in there, like, and the Woody Guthrie dispute. Because, man, first of all, the general having a dispute between two songwriters over music like that in general is like, okay, I'm into that idea. But also the fact that so many of Woody Guthrie's criticisms of the song, like, just don't hold up
to his response.
In terms of writing This Land Is Your Land, especially today, especially in the, like, having today's context of things like the land back movement, like that adds a whole new layer onto what already, even without that movement that's existing now today, like already we're like I said in the episode, talking about a white man from Oklahoma writing about this land is my land. Like, it's just a little weird choice to have that be your song response. There's a whole lot of Irving Berlin's like work and career and impact that I just feel like is just such a mess. And like so many things at the same time. Like, he really does seem to have understood and valued the musical contributions of Black performers and tried to like fight for Black performers he was working with to be respected and that kind of, but then like also,
we gotta do blackface. We gotta.
Yeah, that whole argument, I was like, I found an article that was just about that, and I was like, yikes, like this is full of yikes, so much yikes. But then just also, casually including stuff that was stereotypical or bigoted or whatever in songs that he was trying to, like, there's just a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it, even songs that like, I like, Putting on the Ritz to me is a brilliant song. Like, it's got just wonderful lyrics in my opinion, but also like that is a song that he wrote about like poor Black people in Harlem getting dressed up to like go out on the town in a way that like isn't necessarily read in a flattering way when you read the lyrics, but the lyrics themselves are incredible in my opinion. And also anytime I watch Young Frankenstein,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
That was another thing I stopped what I was doing to watch while I was trying to write this. How many YouTube videos? My whole YouTube algorithm is like now just all skewed because it's full of all kinds of renditions of Irving Berlin songs.
I mean, Peter Boyle forever. So funny. I once again will say Boy, I sure wish I could get up at noon and go to bed at 5. That would be just about right for me.
Yeah, in many recent years, I have been a go to sleep fairly early, wake up sometime between 6 and 7, like, not even on purpose, that's just, like, what my body is doing.
Now, when you say go to bed early, what does that mean for you? Because that means very different things for different people.
Means 10. I'm usually in
Yeah.
bed by 10, maybe 10:30. D&D night, it has to be 10:30 because that's when D&D ends, and sometimes the last 30 minutes of D&D are very hard for me. But when I was younger, for a while, I was working in a spa, and I was working a shift that went from 2 PM to 9 PM, and gradually got into this rhythm where, like, I would get off of work and treat the rest of my day as it had been if I had gotten off of work at 5.
Yeah.
Like, my evening was starting at 9, and then I would sleep really late, and then I would get up and go to start my 2 PM shift again. And so, yeah, I'd like that his, like, 5 AM,
Oh, perfect.
like,
Perfect.
that is a little too far for me, but I've had periods of my life when I've been a little bit more of a nighttime person, and I can, like, at least somewhat see it working.
Always. Even I know it's a terrible habit, but even like if we have like a chunk of time off, like around the holidays or whatever, where there's no obligations for several days, within 3 days, Brian and I are on that schedule. Like we both
Mhm.
just tend to want to like wake up at 11 or 12, have the afternoon and nighttime, and then go to bed as the sun is coming up. I don't know why we divert automatically to vampire hours, but we both do, thankfully. I feel like I should confess that the mere mention of Ethel Merman's name made me cry in this episode.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that
Me
to
either,
happen.
really. I read it, was like, "Oh, I love Ethel Merman." And then we talked about her and I just started bawling. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Irving Berlin clearly loved to write songs for her.
But if you've never seen Ethel Merman sing Everything's Coming Up Roses, it's very easy to do. Just check out YouTube. And she's amazing. I also highly recommend that Gene Stapleton appearance on The Muppet Show is also very easy to find online, and it is lovely.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Mhm.
Ethel. Ethel, and clearly I like the very brash singers of that era.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I'm like none of the lilting, sweet voiced singers. I want Ethel Merman forever. B. Arthur got mentioned in this episode. It's like my dream
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, the list of people like that was not even a complete list of all the people that performed in the 100th birthday tribute concert, but I kept finding I was like, "Gotta put this person in there. Gotta put Jerry Orbach in there. Gotta put"
Oh.
yeah, so many.
I know I definitely had a sad as you read that list because so many of them are gone.
Yeah.
With only
Yeah.
a few exceptions. I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, and that's, like, one of the living to be 101 years old, like, at that point, pretty much everybody that he had, a long working relationship with had
Mhm.
died before he did. He by the time he died, he had this reputation for being just kind of reclusive and cantankerous isn't quite the right word, like, not very personable in his last years. And after his death, one of his daughters, like, got really frustrated with what people's perceptions of her father had become and wrote a really I have not read it, but it's described as, like, a very lovely and tender, memoir about how, like, totally acknowledging that her father worked all the time, but that also the, like, late years reclusiveness, like, that wasn't his whole personality, and that wasn't how people who knew and worked with him necessarily would have remembered him. So, yeah, that's out there too if folks wanna read it. One of the many there's a long source list for this episode, and one of the many sources in that source list is the book, that, I mentioned, I think we quoted from it briefly in the episode, and that was by James Kaplan called Irving Berlin, New York Genius. That is from Yale University Press, but in my opinion, it is really accessible to, like, non-academic readers. I know sometimes stuff that comes out from university presses can be a little dense. I did not find it to be so at all. There were some times where I sort of felt like if I were Jewish, I would have gotten some nuance that I was not getting
Right.
in the way something was described. But other than that, like, I found it to be a really lovely and accessible work on him, if folks are interested in more. Yeah. Happy Friday. Based on when this is coming out, tomorrow is going to be New Year's Eve. And so we will have Saturday Classic tomorrow. And I hope whatever's going on for folks' New Year's Eve, I hope it's great. I've been in jobs where I had to work with the public on New Year's Eve. And I remember that often being a challenging thing.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever's up with you tomorrow, I hope it's great. If you're going to a party, hope it's great. If you're staying home, hope it's great. If you have to work tomorrow, hope that's great. Whatever's happening. We'll be back with Saturday Classic tomorrow with something brand new on Monday. Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.